Going on, Jerome's Minnesota Vikings general manager Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has been very aggressive during his tenure as the Vikings GM at the NFL trade deadline. Hawkinson, Pasternak, Cam Akers. Well, Cam Akers twice, I guess, right? And the Vikings, yes, they're 5-2. Yes, they've lost 2 in a row. But yes, they should be buyers at the NFL trade deadline because this still has makings of a potentially special season. And yeah, the Vikings don't have a ton of draft picks in 2025, but they do have a very solid roster. They have a ton of cap space to supplement. And of course, we know that Kwesi loves being aggressive, so it could be an F them pick situation. But what if it's an un-F them picks situation? Because there's a handful of Vikings that are currently on the rooster that could be dealt for some draft pick supplementation. So let's talk about them today. Here are 5 Vikings who could be traded at the deadline. And I say insane, except they're not really insane, except for like 2 of them. First up, number 1, Brian Asamoah. So he's probably the Viking who's been talked about most in trade conversations. You know, a lot of the beat writers have been rolling with Asamoah. And, you know, I love me some Brian Asamoah coming in out of Oklahoma. He was the modern undersized but super fast heat-seeking missile type linebacker. Made some plays as a rookie, but hasn't really done much over the last 2 seasons. He's played 50 total snaps over the last 2 years. And also, when Cashman was injured, as well as when Pace Jr. was injured earlier in the season, that's the wrong slide, Asamoah wasn't really talked about as a replacement. When Pace went out, it was Grugier Hill 1 for 1. When Cashman went out, it was a little bit of Kamu, a little bit of AVG, a little bit of Metellus. Asamoah didn't even see the field. So Asamoah is only 24. And obviously he's buried on the depth chart, but a team that really loved him in the draft process could certainly be interested in the pride of Oklahoma. Boomer coming up at the deadline. Next up, Viking number 2 who could be traded. What am I doing here? What is going on? Can't even cut and paste anymore. Next up, Akayleb Evans. So Evans, even though he's been dinged up with a hip injury, he still potentially could be on the move. And Evans was a 2022 fourth rounder out of Mizzou, has that size and quickness and ability that coaches covet, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't really gotten together here with Flores. He was benched several times last season. He hasn't gotten the time of day this year, and with a veteran trio of Gilmore, Griffin, and Murph, he's not going to crack it anytime soon. And also, he's struggling on special teams. He was benched before he got injured. And also, the Vikings do have UDFA corner Dwight Nudie-McLaughlin that they really like. Potentially could get some work in Evans' place if he is on the move. And I do think that Evans, like we said, teams always bet on traits, and teams always bet on Mama, I can change him, and he does have starting experience around the league, so he could be valuable for a late-round pick swap. Next up, number 3, Patrick Jones second. Now, we've talked about trading Patrick Jones all off season, right? And it's not so much malice, right? So it's not malicious because we believe in his talent, but I also don't think that he's going to be re-signed here long term because I think that he's going to get paid in free agency. And he is in a contract year, 2021 third round pick from back in the day. And he does have 5 sacks on the season, tied for the team lead with Grenard and AVG, and has been solid against the run as well. But pass rushing wise, he's been pretty inefficient the last couple of weeks, and maybe the bloom is off the rose, maybe not, but teams are going to see that production. Teams are going to see what he could potentially do as a starter, and frankly, I think that he would start for a third of the league minimum right now, and teams who could potentially be interested in him in free agency next offseason, maybe they want to give up a little something, get a half-season audition to see what Patrick Jones second can do in their respective scheme, and also it would allow for Diamond Dallas Turner to finally get some more work, hopefully more than 7 snaps over the last 2 games, as well as guys like, hey, Bo Richter coming on in. That's right. So, like I said, I believe in Jones' talent, but there's a logjam at edge rusher right now, and frankly, even with him, the Vikings pass rush hasn't really gotten home the last couple weeks. Yeah, but still has 5 sacks. So there you go. Next up, number 4. All right, so here's where it gets spicy. Safety Cameron Bynum. Now, hear me out. Beasley's one of my favorite Vikings out there representing the Philippines, but he's also in a contract year, the 2021 fourth rounder out of Cal, converted cornerback. And the Vikings, reportedly, they've touched base, but they haven't really gotten down to the nitty-gritty in terms of contract extension talks. Now, Bynum is probably looking at a Tier 1 safety contract, looking at 12, 13, 14 million per year. And the Vikings have cap space, but maybe they want to allocate those resources somewhere else. And even though he's third on the team in tackles, he does have 2 interceptions and is leading the team with 6 passes broken up. He's allowed 2 touchdowns in coverage, 5 missed tackles, and metrics-wise is not matching up to what he was doing last season. And if the Vikings don't have eyes to re-sign him, maybe they take a deal now, because if he leaves in free agency, you're hoping for a comp pick in 2026. But since the Vikings have so much cap space, the Vikings are probably going to be buyers in free agency, so it could be canceled out anyway. So essentially, you're losing him for nothing. Or you could get some value for Beasley at the deadline now. And then also, you do have Theo Jackson waiting in the wings for the Vikings if you want to go down that route. Or, well, I was going to say carry on my J-word sub, but maybe not. Or what about me and Bobby McCain? I don't know. Lastly, number 5, the spiciest one, Jordan Addison. Now, I know. Free 3 didn't mean trade me or get me the ball or blah, blah, blah. But so first off, it would be the most valuable trade chip. Right, Addison is still 22. He's still got his full career ahead of him, has all the potential in the world. But you would think that the guy that's opposite of Justin friggin' Jefferson, the guy who gets single coverage every single time, would be more productive, right? And I don't want to hear, well, Sam Darnold's not looking his way. He looked at Jalen Speedy Naylor, pretty damn good. Frankly, Naylor was more productive as Jefferson's wide receiver 2 earlier on in the season. But with Addison, he's 2 off-season incidents, does have that pending 3-game suspension likely coming in next year, so that certainly dings his value a little bit. But you can't sneeze at his rookie season, 70 for 9, 11, and 10. But I don't know, like, is there starting to be cracks where he doesn't fit in with the team-first culture that Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell are building? Don't know. Like, at a certain point, is the juice worth the squeeze? And he's got talent, but is it him? Is it Darnold? Is it O'Connell? What is it? Like, what is the reasoning behind Addison only having eight receptions in the last 3 games? What is the deal? Is he not getting open? Does Darnold not see him? Does Darnold not trust him? What is going on? And as we say that, Addison is probably going to go off for 10 for $150 and 2 against the Colts on Sunday. You just watch. That's what happens. But like we said, Addison obviously would be the most valuable trade chip if the Vikings want to go down that route. And maybe they do have supreme confidence in Jalen Speedy Naylor, knocking on wood he can stay healthy. Or Powell, Sherfield hanging out, Tristan Jackson. Maybe they'll call him up again. Don't know, man. But like we said, all things are open right now at the deadline, and the Vikings could be buyers at the trade deadline, but also they could find spots where they have surplus of talent and recoup some of that draft capital that they're going to be giving up. So who really knows at this point? All I know is that Kwesi's going to be active. It's the most wonderful time of the year for him. So who knows? Anyways, that's it. 5 Vikings who potentially could be traded at the NFL trade deadline. Let us know your thoughts. Our thoughts, comment section. You know what to do. Skull production value.